Hello, beautiful human being, and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be going through why having an attitude of gratitude or an attitude of appreciation can positively transform and impact your life, but not only your life. It'll make your life better, it'll make your friends' life better, it'll make your community's life better, and it'll also make your family's life better and your kids' life better if you do have kids as well. It'll just make everything in your world better. So I'm excited to be here. I'm excited to dive into this. Let's get going, and we'll kick it off by saying that about 10 years ago on my own journey, I found myself to be really negative. At this point in my life, I was going through a lot. I was still carrying a lot from my past. I was still carrying a lot from the experiences and the abuse and the pain and the shame that I experienced throughout my life, to the point at which I was going for a walk with one of my best friends at the time. And this was maybe when I was actually 17, so maybe it was a little bit longer than 10 years ago. It was probably honestly like almost 12 years ago, 13 years ago. I'm 31 now, whatever that math is. I'm not necessarily good just right on the fly with math yet. And so we're going for a walk around this loop, and there's a little child, and he's maybe 3 to 4 years old, and he's just running around. And I look at this child, and there's a big scowl on my face. And what's interesting about that moment is that my friend ends up elbowing me. And he's like, dude, what are you doing? You're scowling at a kid. And I was like, holy smokes, I am scowling at a kid. So at that time in my life, I was really negative. I was really shaming. I was really condescending. When something would happen in my world, I would look at it for all the negative things, for the reason why that sucked, for the reason why it was shitty, for the reason why it happened to me. I kind of fell into this victim kind of mindset of the world's happening to me. I would judge myself negatively. I'd always look for the mistakes that I'm making, the things that I'm doing wrong. I'd point out my flaws, my shortcomings. I'd point out other people's flaws, other people's shortcomings. And I was just walking around in this really like this negative cloud. And I didn't know how to shake it. I didn't know how to kind of like transfer and shift into something more positive. And we'll talk about that in just a second. So if you're there, I want you to know that wherever you are on this journey, wherever you are in relation to gratitude or having an attitude of appreciation or seeing the world in a different way, you can begin somewhere. And it doesn't matter how far off you've gone. I was really far off. And it just took a little bit more work to get me to build up to having an attitude of gratitude or an attitude of appreciation. We'll talk about the positive effects that that's had on my life and also how you can begin to implement that too. But I wanted to share that story because it gives a little bit of context in how we look at the world. The stories that we tell ourselves, the meanings that we give the world shape the experience that we live in, right? So something happens in my life, and I can either tell myself a story that I'm not good enough, or I can tell myself a story that I am good enough. I can tell myself the story that I'm fat. I can tell myself the story that I'm beautiful. I can tell myself the story that I'm successful and that I'm learning, that I'm growing, or I can tell myself the story that I'm a failure, that I'm a loser, that I'm never going to amount to anything. And how and what story we tell shapes the experience that we get to live in. It's why two people can experience the same event, but one person walks away being like, that was the best thing that ever happened to me. And the other person walks away being like, that was the worst thing that ever happened to me. And so how we see the world shapes how we experience the world. And there's one thing to note that's really important, is that we as human beings are generally hardwired and conditioned to look for the negative way more than the positive. We always look for what's not working, what's missing, what's broken, what's ugly. We always look for the negative. And this is because we have a negative cognitive bias within ourselves. For some reason, we are more oriented to finding what's wrong with the world, what's wrong with ourselves, and what's wrong with this moment, rather than actually stepping into a place of appreciation or a place of gratitude or looking at the positive. Now, there's a lot of reasons of why that could be. My main reason of why I think that is because we as human beings are always looking to be safe. We want to feel safe. And if we're always scanning for what's going to go wrong, if we're always looking at what could go wrong or what is wrong, then that's a way for us to constantly kind of focus on what needs to be fixed so that we can feel safe. It's kind of like a protection mechanism in some ways. If I just focus on all these negative things and I can somehow get control over them and kind of take care of them and fix them, then I won't have to worry about those things and I'll be safe here in this moment. But what's interesting is that we live in a world right now where there is an endless amount of negative things that we can look at. There's an endless amount of kind of pain and suffering that we can just envelop ourselves into in the world. There's always the next thing. It's like, okay, a bomb goes off here, then a bomb goes off here, then a bomb goes off here, a person dies here, a person hits these people here. So there's always something negative to find. And that's just something to note, is that we are naturally hardwired that way. That's why for some, gratitude and having an appreciation, beginning to really step into looking at life this way, can sometimes feel like it's forced. When I started to move from that kind of negative state where I was scowling at kids and just feeling really negative to something more positive and developing an attitude of gratitude and an attitude of appreciation, at the beginning, it felt like I was forcing it. It felt like this is what I was trying to do. Like I was trying to do this so hard. And that was simply because of my hardwiring and my conditioning that led me to just always look at what's not working, always look at what's missing, always look at the ways that I'm coming up short, always look at the failures. And that is an okay way of being in the world. And the beautiful thing about being a human being is that you have choice. Do you want to choose to look at the world that way? How does that serve you? How do you feel when you look at the world that way? How do you feel when you're consumed by negativity, or you're consumed by always pointing out what isn't working, or what's missing, or what you don't have, or what's not enough, or the flaws, or the mistakes, or the things that you're doing that are not enough? How does that feel? Well, chances are it feels pretty terrible. Okay, if that feels terrible, then that's wonderful, that's cool to know. Then do you want to shift into something different? Do you want to begin to look at the world a different way? Now, there's also a separation here between, like, this isn't about toxic positivity of always being positive. No, we want to feel the emotions. We want to feel the things that are happening through us and for us. And we want to feel the shame, and we want to feel those things to some degree, but we don't want to keep buying into it. We also begin wanting to shift the narrative, because the story that we tell shapes the experience that we live. So it's not about being toxic positive, but it is about understanding a vital thing, is that we always point out the negative way more than the positive. There was a study done at Stanford where it took 14 positive comments and positive compliments in order to interact, in order to kind of like cut off or like meet one negative comment. 14 to 1, 14 positives to 1 negative. That's how much we are just orientated towards the negative. And so as we shift, it can sometimes feel like we're forcing it. Sometimes feel like we're trying to do this. Like, I'm trying to be grateful. I'm not feeling gratitude, but I'm trying to have an attitude of appreciation, but I'm still not seeing it. And that's okay. Wherever you are is wonderful. Whether you have the attitude of gratitude already, whether you have the attitude of appreciation already, whether you're just beginning, or whether you're somewhere in the middle. It's beautiful, and it's something that will radically shift how you experience the world. Because as you begin to see it through the lens of gratitude, and let's imagine for a moment that you're grateful for everything that you have. It might not be much, let's just get that clear. You might have a lot, you might not have much. You may just be able to have a roof over your head. You may be living with your parents, but you still have a roof over your head. You have clothes on your back, you have breath in your body, you're able-bodied, so you can move your body. Maybe you're not completely able-bodied, maybe you can't move your legs, but you can move your upper body and you can move your arms. So there is still some capacity. You can see, you can hear, you can taste, you can eat food. Let's say that you're grateful for the amount of money that you make or the job that you have. Let's say that you're grateful for everything that you have and everything that you experience in your life. How do you think that you would feel? Well, chances are you'd feel really happy. Chances are you'd feel really grateful. Chances are you'd be excited for life. If you're always looking at what's working and how life is happening for you and appreciating what's in your life and what is happening, like, how would that feel? It feels really beautiful. It feels really good. Now you have to ask yourself, well, what do you want? What do you want to choose? If you want to choose the attitude of gratitude over the attitude of maybe suffering or comparison, or always looking at what's missing, or always looking at what you don't have, or always looking at your shortcomings or your flaws, that's wonderful. But like, what do you want to experience? Chances are you want to experience the attitude of gratitude. Chances are you want to experience that peace. Chances are you want to experience that fulfillment. Chances are you want to experience that love and that happiness and the joy that comes with looking into the world and seeing how everything is happening for you, how everything is working for you, how everything you have is everything you need. Now we'll talk about how to actually begin to develop that quality or that attitude of gratitude and the impact of that, and how what you appreciate appreciates in your life. And I'll share a couple more stories around my personal journey when I had nothing and I was still coming from this place, and how that's profoundly shifted my life and how I experience life. Because it's so fundamentally true that we have an opportunity in every moment to tell a story. And we can tell a story about lack and limitation, how we don't have enough and how we're missing something, or we can tell a story about the abundance that we have in our life. And just to give a clear kind of like example of this, I was doing this even when I had nothing. So if you know my journey at all, I'm a single father, co-parent. I had my son 50-50, so I have him for a week on, a week off. And I've been doing this since he was 6 months old. Little boy is now almost 8 years old. He'll be turning 8, I think, in the next 4 months. And so there was a point at which we're living in Grand Prairie, Alberta, in a tiny home, and I didn't have much money. At that time, I was working as little as possible so I can spend my time doing as much as I wanted to, and also spend my time enjoying my time with my son as well. So I was working very little, and so that made that I made very little income. And there was a point in my life when I was paying off a bunch of debt as well, where I didn't have food to necessarily eat. I would cook my son an organic, beautiful meal that was all organic. It was like organic chicken or organic beef with some potatoes and some like this really wonderful meal. But I didn't have enough money in order to do the same for me. So what I did and this was probably the span of a couple week period, I would eat canned food. I ended up eating canned beans. I ended up eating canned like green beans, corn, like canned vegetables, and just canned tuna, like canned food. And I remember that point in my life where it was like, okay, I have a choice here. I can either look at how I don't have enough, how at this moment in my life, I'm eating canned food while my son is eating this really wonderful organic meal. And I can write a million stories about how I'm a failure of a parent, how I suck as a dad, how I can't make it financially. Or I can write the story of like, hey, I'm so grateful that I get to eat. I am so grateful that I get to eat this can of beans that I'm eating for supper. Thank you, God, so much. Thank you, universe, for bringing this into my experience. Thank you, thank you, thank you that I get to eat this. Thank you that I get to offer and give my son an organic meal where he gets to nourish his body in a really beautiful, really harmonizing way. God, thank you so much for this roof over my head that I can pay every single month. Thank you so much for the clothes on my back. Thank you so much that I get to be able to provide for this little dude in this way because this is enough. I could tell either of those stories, and the story that I chose to tell was that story. Was it hard? Did I sometimes fall into telling myself, oh, I'm such a failure, I'm such a loser, I'm such this? Yes, I would sometimes fall into that loop. But what's beautiful is the power of seeing that loop, seeing that I'm going down that loop, and then catching myself, asking myself if it's absolutely true. Sure, relatively true. If people look into my world, they'd be like, okay, dude, like something's going on here. Like you need to buck up, you need to go get a job, you need to begin to provide more. At that point, I just didn't want to. I wanted to spend as much of my time as I could going for walks in nature, in meditation, doing yoga, learning and exploring who I was. So I chose not to do that. So I would say, okay, sure, it's relatively true that I'm a failure because this is what I'm feeling. But is it absolutely true that I'm a failure? Is it absolutely true that I don't have enough? Is it absolutely true that I'm missing something? No, it's not absolutely true. Okay, then I'm going to shift into telling myself this story. I'm going to tell myself this story that, hey, what I have is enough. Who I am is enough. That I have enough food. That I have breath. That I have water. That I have a place to live. That I have clothes on my back. That I have enough. And so I wanted to share that story because it doesn't matter where you are in life. Whether you're completely broke, whether you're a millionaire, whether you're somewhere in between or even further beyond those spectrums, having an attitude of gratitude and having an attitude of appreciation, really, it doesn't matter what you have. Because in every given moment, you have everything you need. The mind, this thing up here, loves to convince ourselves that we're missing something, that we need something, we need the next new thing, or we need more money, or we need more this. And what's interesting is that that continues no matter where we go. And if we continue to buy into that game that we need more, it's like we'll always be needing more until we see that what's in our life is actually enough. What's in our life is actually abundant. And we see the abundance that we have and we celebrate that like crazy, because so often we can look into the world and we can compare ourselves to other people and we say that, oh, I don't have enough, or I don't have this. When in reality, if you were to take away that comparison, you're to look into your life for everything that you have a phone to watch this on, maybe it's a computer to watch this on, you probably have a roof roof over your head right now. You have probably some sort of food in the fridge. You have some sort of money in your bank account, whether or not it's $1, whether or not it's 50 cents, whether or not it's 25 cents, or whether or not it's 100,000 or 100 million. You have some sort of money in your bank account. I guarantee you there's one person in your life who loves you. Just one. I guarantee there's one person who loves the heck out of you. And if not, heck, I love you. So having the attitude of gratitude is looking into your life no matter what you have and developing an appreciation for that. And at the beginning, like I said, it's really hard to shift from that negative cognitive bias and always looking into the world for what's going wrong and what's not working and the ways that I'm not enough or what I don't have. It's tough to begin to shift that narrative, to begin to look into our lives for what we do have. In the beginning, it can feel somewhat mechanical. And how I recommend that people go through this is by going through like just an abundance checklist, like create a little checklist for yourself of like when you do find yourself feeling like you don't have enough or that you're missing something, or you feel like you're caught in that negative kind of loop of like, something's missing. It's like there's just come back to, which I'll explain the process afterwards, this abundance checklist where you can be like, okay, do I have a body? Yes, wicked. There's somebody in the world who wishes that they could have a body. There's somebody who wishes that they could have one more breath to live the human experience before they die. Wicked. So you have a body. Is your body capable? Are you able to move and walk? And are you able to lift things? Are you able to work? Are you able to kind of like move your body freely? Wicked. There's people in this world who do not have access to that, who do not have that. Can you see? Can you hear? Can you touch? Can you taste? Can you eat food? Can you move your hands? Can you build things? Wicked. You can. Amazing. Do you have somebody in your life who loves you? Chances are that's a yes. If not, it's me. Let's go. Do you have a phone to watch this on? Do you have a laptop to watch this on? Do you have something to watch this video? Yes, obviously you do. Okay, that in itself is abundance right there. And you can keep on going down this list of like, do you have a roof over your head today? Like today, in this moment, do you have a roof over your head today? Do you have a car to drive? Do you have a vehicle to be in and work with? Do you have a family? And if the question is no, then you can just skip those on whatever your abundance checklist is. Do you have clothes on your back? Do you have access to running water? Like these are all things that there are people in the world who wish that they would have what you have. Now I share that to just help you understand the abundance that you have actually been given, the privilege in some ways that you actually have. And it is understanding and appreciating that privilege in which cultivates the most powerful law in the universe, that what you appreciate appreciates. The more that we appreciate what's in our life, the more things that we will have in our life. And that is just a fundamental truth that I've seen time and time again, even with the clients that I've worked with and any programs that I run, that the more that we begin to appreciate what's in our life, who's in our life, ourselves, the more that we appreciate what we have, the more that begins to appreciate, the more meaning that gives in our life, the more beauty that brings in our life, the more joy that gives in our life, the more energy that gives, and also the more material things that will come into our life along the way. And this is the same thing of having the attitude of gratitude. Having the attitude of gratitude, it positively impacts everyone in our space, everyone in our world. And the beautiful thing is that if you want to have an attitude of gratitude, if you want to have an attitude of appreciation, it's up to you. I can't come into your life and I can't make you be grateful. I can't make you have appreciation for the things that I have. This is something that you're going to have to do. This is something that you're going to have to develop. It's just like if I want gigantic biceps, right? I'm gonna go in the gym and I'm gonna be doing bicep curls like crazy in order to grow those biceps. And every rep that I do grows the bicep. Every rep that you do that shifts you into the narrative of an attitude of gratitude or an attitude of appreciation begins to build that muscle. And slowly over time, over the course of a month, by doing this every single day, which we'll touch on a practice of how you can actually do that, over the course of every single month, 2 months, 3 months, 5 months, 6 months, 1 year of doing that, your life will fundamentally look different and be different because of the reps that you have been putting in the gym. Except it's just the gym up here that nobody necessarily talks about and nobody necessarily looks at doing the work up here. But this is what we're all about. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for doing this in your life. Thank you so much for even being willing or wanting to begin to change how you see the world, to have that attitude of gratitude, to have that attitude of appreciation. So how can you actually begin this process? What is a step-by-step way that can actually get you shifting from looking at what's missing, looking at everything that's broken, everything that's wrong, and beginning to shift into into an attitude of gratitude. So there's a couple different ways to do this. I'm going to suggest a bunch of different ways, maybe 3 to 4 ways, and you can pick honestly just one and begin implementing it in your life. So the first one is at the end of the day and at the beginning of the day, I want you to journal 3 things that you're grateful for. So at the beginning of the day, just journal 3 things you're grateful for. At the end of the day, journal 3 things you're grateful for. Now, these could be things that have happened this past week, in the past day, in the past year, but you really just want to be with yourself in this capacity and really tune into what are you grateful for. Now, even if you have to force yourself to write something down, like you don't feel the feeling just yet of gratitude, that's okay. I want to share that there's a gap between knowing something and thinking something and experiencing that something. So you're going to think about gratitude, you're going to know gratitude, you're going to write down gratitude, but you might not feel gratitude. And I want to share that there is a gap there that takes time and repetition for you to begin to build the gratitude, build the muscle of actually feeling gratitude. So if you're writing down gratitudes and you're like, dude, I don't actually feel grateful, like this is a waste of time, keep going, keep putting in the reps, and you'll see that over the course of a month, over the course of 30 days, just how much your life will actually begin to change and how much your outlook will actually begin to change and how much you'll actually start to feel gratitude. So that's the first way that you can go to kind of implementing this attitude of gratitude into your life. The second thing is when you're in your day, and let's say that this is going to be more so when you're caught in a negative story, you're caught in seeing what's missing, you're caught in what's broken, you're caught in what's not working, you're caught in kind of like that negativity that you're in. This is a process that I share in Freedom 22, also with all of my clients as well. So when we're caught in that negativity, the first thing that we want to do is become aware. We want to notice it of like, oh my gosh, I'm being negative. I'm seeing the world in a negative way. I'm seeing myself in a negative way. I'm looking for what's missing. And this is why I'm feeling this way. I'm feeling negative because this is happening, because I'm thinking thoughts that are negative. The thoughts that I'm thinking that are negative are causing emotions that are negative to happen within me, and this has kind of just happened. So the first step is awareness of when this happens. We have to become aware of when these negative states happen, and then we have to be willing to question the story that we're telling ourselves in that moment. So let's say that something happens, I'm like, oh, that person was such a dick, right? Like maybe somebody came up to me and said something and it hurt my feelings. And now I'm creating this story that person's such a dick, they're so mean, they're so rude. And this story is kind of causing me to suffer. What I can do in that moment is I can ask myself, okay, how does thinking that thought, how does it serve me? How does thinking these negative thoughts, how does that affect me? Well, it causes me to feel terrible. It causes me to feel angry. It causes me to feel bitter. It causes me to feel resentful. Okay. Do you like to feel that way? Well, no, I don't like to feel that way. Okay. So is it true that whatever story you're telling yourself is actually true? So if I'm telling a story that person's a dick or that person's rude or that person's mean, is it true that they are those things? Sure, relatively true that maybe in this moment they are that way. Or maybe what they did say was mean. It's relatively true. Okay. Now, we can ask ourselves the question, is it absolutely true? Now, this is taken under the frame of, is that person really just a dick? Well, no, okay? They might have moments where they're dicks, but they aren't a dick. And so all that this does is this goes into those thoughts that we're thinking and kind of loosens them up for us to begin to shift into thinking differently. And so then what we can think in that moment instead is we ask ourselves, well, what thought would we like to think instead? Okay. Well, that person did say something rude, but they're not a dick. And I forgive that person for what they said. Okay, wicked. How does it feel to think that thought? Well, it feels more peaceful. It feels more easeful. It feels a little bit easier in your body, easier in your experience. Wicked. Now, go ahead and think that thought. And so what that does is like when we're caught in the negativity, when we're caught in what's missing, when we're caught in the ways in which we're not enough, like if I was to rewind to the place where I was like eating beans and my son was eating organic, and I was thinking like, oh, I'm a failure as a father. I just don't have enough. I'm not enough. Okay. Is that relatively true? Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's relatively true that I feel this way, that it's not enough, that I don't have, that I am a failure because I'm not able to provide for my son in this way or not able to take care of myself in the way that I want to. Okay, I can see how I could think that I'm a failure. That's justified. I'd feel that feeling. Okay, is it absolutely true? No. Okay, so then what thought would I like to think instead? Well, I would like to think this thought, that I have enough, that this is enough, that thank you, God, for giving me this experience, for giving me this food, because what I have in my life is enough, and I'm grateful for the abundance that my life is. Okay, how do I feel when I think that thought? Well, I feel really good, actually. I feel really positive. I feel really actually inspired and energized by that thought. Okay, well, choose to think that thought. So that process of just kind of like asking ourselves question, and the difference between relative truth and absolute truth is, it's really simple. And I think this comes from the work by Katie Byron, or I think it's Byron. And we often have these feelings, and these feelings feel relatively true. Like they're true for us in this moment. Like I feel like I'm not good enough. I feel like I'm a failure. It's called relative truth. Of like, yes, in this moment, I feel this way because of what I'm experiencing and what I'm thinking. But it is not the absolute truth. And if you're ever stuck on the absolute truth of like, is this the absolute truth? And you're like, yeah, it is. It's like, well, would everyone in the world agree with you? And I mean, literally every single person in the world agree with you that that is true. Chances are it's always a no. Like for the most part, I would never agree with you if you're thinking less than, if you're thinking unworthy thoughts, if you're thinking negative. Usually I'd only agree with you if you're seeing the truth about who and what you are, which is beautiful, radiant, powerful, and amazing, and beautiful. And so the absolute truth just shakes it a little bit loose of like, okay, it gets us out of the story that the ego and the mind is telling, because usually the stories that we tell in the mind usually just cause us suffering. They keep us justified. They keep us stuck in why we're right and they're wrong, and why they shouldn't have done what they shouldn't have, or they shouldn't have done what they did. And it just keeps us justified in this pattern of anger and pride and this ego, like I'm the one who's right. I'm justified in my experience. Of like, sure, you're justified in your experience, but is that what you want to experience? Do you want to keep experiencing that, or do you want to experience something different? Do you want to experience a different story? Do you want to tell yourself a different story about the world, of how amazing and beautiful it is? If you have a story around like how you can't trust men, do you want to tell yourself that story? Do you want to tell yourself the story of how you can trust men and how they are beautiful, right? One perpetuates pain and suffering, the other perpetuates love. And whatever story we tell ourselves is the experience that we get to live in. And so in that moment, that tool of just going through those questions of like, hey, becoming aware of what I'm experiencing. Oh, I'm suffering right now. Oh, I'm caught in my negativity, which requires us to see and have kind of like an analysis of like, oh, how am I feeling in this moment? Checking in with ourselves. And a powerful way to do that, if you don't have that awareness in the moment to be able to do that, is to honestly look back at the end of the day, just look back over the day and like, where was I negative? Where was I feeling down about myself? And why was I feeling down about myself? Get curious into why that's actually happening for you. Now, the next tool that you can use, and I'll leave it here, just 3 tools, is what I call the joy alarms. Now, you can take your phone, and I'd want you to set maybe 5 alarms on your phone. This is gonna sound crazy, but whenever an alarm goes off, what I want you to do is I want you to celebrate all the things that you have in your life. I want you to walk through the list of, I have a roof over my head, I have clothes on my back, I have breath to breathe, I have food to eat, I have a place to live, I have a family who loves me, I have a family that I love. I have one person in my life who loves me. I have a phone to watch this on. I have $2 in my bank account. I have $10 million in my bank account. I have a bike. I have a car. I have the bus. I have transportation. I have running water. And you just want to literally celebrate like everything in your life and be like, wow, like, oh my gosh. And again, this might feel forced at first, but over time, this will begin to feel natural because you just begin to generate and look into your life for the abundance that your life actually is. Because in any moment, your life is incredibly abundant, no matter what you have. As long as you have the breath, as long as you are still living, you are living a legit gift. It's beautiful, it's amazing. As long as you have a body, even if it doesn't move, you are still living a gift. And so it's just looking into our life and celebrating everything. And we want to do that for anywhere from 30 seconds to 1 minute. Just a short period of time. One thing that honestly works well with that is to put on some really high vibe music, some music that you love to like dance to, and just go through in your mind everything that you're grateful for. Do that for 5 times a day. It sounds crazy. Do it at work, do it with your family, do it in the morning, do it as soon as you wake up, do it at the end of the day. Set those alarms so that when it does go off, you just look into your life and you're like, wow, I have so much. I'm so grateful for what it is that I do have. I'm so grateful for what's unfolding, what's happening in my life. I'm so grateful and blessed for everything that I get to experience, for everything that my life is. Wow. What would it be like to come from that place? Really beautiful. And that's what having an attitude of gratitude and an attitude of appreciation does in one's life. It begins to shift us from the negative and the suffering into something more enjoyable and positive. And like I said, it's not about pushing that stuff away. It's understanding that there is a bias within our brain that always points that out, that always looks at what's not working, what's missing, the ways that it's not enough, everything that's wrong with the world. It's always looking and pointing in that direction. And all that we're doing is shifting it back to what is working. What do you have? The ways that you are enough. Because you are. And you, my friend, are the most abundant human being on this planet. Everything you have is everything you need. And you always have that in every single moment. In any single moment, there's nothing that you are missing. And if we don't feel that way, it's because we're not seeing the world that way. And it is a flaw in our perception. It's a flaw in the way that we see the world. And so this is just a simple way to help us shift into beginning to recognize and see the abundance that our life actually is, the abundance that we've been given, the abundance that we get to live. And I will have a testimony of like, hey, the more that you begin to come from this place in life, the more that you begin to seek out how life is happening for you, how the moment that you think that something negative is happening, how that thing is actually happening for you. It's helping you learn something. It's helping you grow. It's helping you shift into who you're meant to become. When that person cheated on you and you thought it was the one, no, they're just preparing you for the one to come. When you get fired from that job, but then that firedness leads you to meeting somebody who leads you to starting that business you've always wanted to start. It's beginning to see that the world is a benevolent force that is always conspiring for your good, that is always conspiring to help you evolve into a greater expression and understanding of knowing of who and what you are. And that is the fundamental truth. And that comes from somebody who used to think that that the world was a terrible place, that it was a scary place. The world is full of bad people and terrible things. And that bad things happen to me. To then shifting into this different narrative and beginning to experience that and seeing the effect and the benefit of that in my life and the abundance that I get to live and the abundance that I get to call my life. The only reason I get to live what I get to live now is because the moment when I was going back to being in the tiny home, eating a can of beans, I was still grateful for what I had. I had nothing, and I still had everything at that time. Even when I first left my son's mom, and I moved back into my parents. I was sleeping on a mattress on the floor. I think I was 24 at the time, single father to a 6-month-old child, and we're sleeping on the floor of my parents' house. And I was still grateful for what I had. I was still in abundance for what I had because I had a roof over my head. I had food to eat every night. I had people in my life who loved me and supported me and cared for me. So this is no matter where you are in life, no matter if you have 25 cents in your bank account or 10 million, it's celebrating the fact that you have 25 cents and really tuning into that appreciation, tuning in that you can eat the food that you eat, you can do the things that you do, you can have the things that you have, as little as they are or as much as they are. And it's just about shifting into appreciation, because as you do, everything in your life begins to change. And if you begin to feel more positive, if you begin to feel more energized in peace and joy and happiness over the things that you have and the abundance that you have, how does that affect your family? How does that affect your kids? How does that affect your friends? How does it affect your community? How does it affect the people in your life? Well, as you change, everyone around you changes. And that's the beautiful thing, is the ripple that you have in your life begins to ripple out and affect everybody else in your life. And that is such a beautiful gift. And that, my friend, is the gift that you're able to give. That, my friend, is the gift that you can give in this moment by choosing to look at what you do have versus what's missing. Now, like I said, you may find yourself drifting back over here. That's okay. When you're there, catch yourself and shift back. 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 I still sometimes view what I'm missing, or the things that I don't have, or the ways in which I'm not enough, or the ways in which I'm not like everybody else in the world. They're not doing these crazy cool things. And then I just shift into what I have and I celebrate it. And that's all that this is. celebrating and moving into a place of abundance for who it is and what you are. And from my heart to yours, that is this transmission. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to share those in the comments down below. I'm here to support you on this journey and here to support you in this way. And if you've made it all the way to the end, I appreciate you. I hope that you take one moment right now before this video ends, just to look around your room, look at whatever space you're in, and just notice that these are the things that you have. This is what you get to experience, no matter where you are. If you're in college, if you're at home, if you have a family, if you're watching this on a TV, your laptop, your phone, in your car, just look around. This is what you have, and it is enough. It's actually more than enough. You are abundant in so many ways. Now live from that place, move from that place, speak from that place. No matter how crazy it may seem, people will begin to look into your life and be like, wow, what's going on with that person? Why are they so happy? Why are they so joy-filled? Why are they so positive? Interesting. They shouldn't be, because they don't have X, Y, and Z. Okay. I want what that person has. Let's go. It's you. You're the gift. You're the ripple. You're the abundant human being that you are. From my heart to yours, so much love. I love you so much, and I'll see you on another video. Peace.